Hello and welcome to Live Dreams. We are excited for you to be here with us today. We've been having a little bit of an issue with echo cancellation, so we're working on it. Hopefully we won't have that same issue tonight, but we have Stuart with us. Hi, Stuart.
Hi.
So I'm gonna when I go to talk, I'm gonna mute. So and when Stuart is not talking, we will also mute her. And I'm going to mute everybody that's in the back office just to make sure that we don't get as much noise. But let's open up with a word of prayer first. Father God, I just thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today and to share about your dream language, the language of love, the love language of God to his children, as we say. We thank you for the opportunity to hear from you in dreams and visions and prophecy and words of knowledge and words of wisdom. And we thank you for the opportunity to be able to translate to others who may not be as familiar with your figurative language, the language of the seer realm of dreams and visions as others are. And so we ask God today for wisdom. We know that the interpretation comes from you. We know that dreams come from you. And we ask, Lord God, that you would give us wisdom, that you would be with us, and that you would give us the interpretation. We know it's the Holy Spirit that guides us in interpreting dreams. It's not psychoanalysis or philosophy or the stars or anything like that, but the answer comes from heaven. And so we thank you for the opportunity to be here with you. Let it be said of us that we are among those who can stand in the counsel of the Lord to both see and hear your word. We thank you for it this time tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Well, let's just go over a few things today. As we do live dreams, we ask if you have a short dream. A short dream is typically 1 to maybe 4 or 5 sentences. If it's like 2 or 3 paragraphs, it's probably just a little bit beyond the scope of what we're doing here. Our goal here is to just let you know that God still speaks through dreams and to give you a visual example of what that looks like in seeing your dream interpreted or somebody else's dream interpreted. We are not the one-stop shop, do-it-all for all dream interpretations anywhere. There are other people that have a different style of dream interpretation than we do. But we do teach what we call spiritual intelligence. And that's intelligence that's derived from visions and dreams, that's used to do things like consult with heads of state or CEOs of companies or things like that. And so we want people to get a taste of what a dream interpretation looks like. And then hopefully that creates a hunger and a desire in you for more. And then it becomes an insatiable hunger for communication with God in the unseen realm through the figurative language and understanding what he's saying when he encrypts a message just for you and he gives it to you that's based on your experiences, the people that you know, the books that you've read, the movies that you've seen, your life and what's going on in the world around you. And it's a really, really special message. But probably one of the biggest things that if you get anything from us, it would be value your dreams like gold. Your dreams are intelligence. And we want you to continue to write them down, record them, share them. But also if you have questions, we want to be a resource for you to learn more about dreams, about the biblical approach to dreams, and about what the Holy Spirit is saying to you through your dreams. All right. So let's get started. Hi, you're muted.
Here I go. I'm so excited. Hi, John and Stuart.
It's good to see you.
I've been here only a couple of times, so at least I know the drill. So I have it all written down. I'm going to read it really fast and get started. Okay. I had this dream on August the 3rd of this year. I call it Zoo Creature's Dream. Okay, I dreamed that I was at my house, although it didn't look like my house. Everything was bigger. I was cleaning up the backyard and I noticed some rather strange looking creatures that appeared dead. All were very gigantically large in size, almost dinosaur days like. It was like the head of a fish cut in half for two of the creatures, and they were dull gray, pinkish red, like fish like colors, nothing bright colored. And then I remember seeing a green colored creature, fish like, but with really big lips. The face and head looked like a dragon, like they use at a Chinese New Year parade, the dragon head, but it was all green and only the upper part of the body, the head mainly. Um, it didn't have any legs or any of the other part of the body. So I was getting ready to throw them away and I tried to pick them up, but they all looked so gross, scary, overly large. So I went back to the house for some reason. Maybe I was going to get a bag to put it all in. And as I was going to do that, I then turned back and I looked, and all of a sudden, that green creature starts moving and it puts itself together as if it was cut in half. It put itself together. So now the head has the neck on, and then it starts moving around now pretty rapidly. So it was really big, really scary, slithering around. And somehow, as I looked at it, it seemed to have gotten bigger, like almost the whole body had formed dinosaur large sized days. So I went quickly back in the house. I was so scared, and I made sure all the doors and any openings that I had in the house were closed, as I didn't want that creature to get in. One door I was trying to close, but I couldn't close it. It was a door that somehow remained open, like it was designed that way to not shut. But there was another way to close it off. But because it didn't close right away for me, I tried. I was in a hurry, I was in a crisis. So I just kept it open. It seemed like that door was more of a corridor door. It didn't lead to the outside, but was more of the inside of the house. Okay, then there's a sister scene, very short. Then I went to the front house area as I wanted to make sure my dog, I do have a real dog, wasn't outside. I couldn't find him. And then I saw my sister and she was acting normally. I remember another scene where I am in a store. I was looking for something to buy. A couple of women staff were there putting some things out. It was just clothing, but there's nothing that I had wanted. Although I see myself going back and forth trying to find something, but there's nothing I wanted. So I saw some kids there. Maybe I wanted to look around because it was kind of interesting with kids stuff. But again, I didn't buy anything. Okay, back to the creatures, and it's almost over. Okay, so I was trying to tell my sister about these creatures I saw, although she didn't see them. So we went to the backyard to find these creatures, but they weren't there. My sister wasn't with me at this time, but at this time, so I had an eerie feeling as I was trying to find these creatures, but I knew they were around, and I'm like, where are they? I thought maybe I should go call the police. I need to kill them or they're going to kill me. And I was thinking like, oh, I need a BB gun to shoot it, but I didn't have one. I should throw some rocks in them, call somebody to help me, but I didn't find them as I went back outside again. And I just started looking around, and I remember I then had this 3D look at the scenery, like a bird's nest view from below, and I could see these creatures, and they were on top of trees. The trees didn't have a lot of leaves; they were pretty bare. Somehow, they were able to hold the three creatures. And now the creatures, they're not cut in parts. They were all whole size. There was three of them, just like what I saw in the beginning. They were huge. After I saw them, I'm running now. I'm desperate to find some help because, I was looking above and there they were. Okay, then on the side, I see a lion and a dog. It wasn't my dog, but the dog didn't see the lion, and it looked like the lion would soon hurt and attack the dog. Okay, as I'm running in the neighborhood, I'm trying to get to the top of the hill. I then see some people and bears on my right side. Now, these bears were nice, and the people were able to touch them, even hold and hug them and play with them. So as I ran towards that area, I could see that it was all okay. So I just started running down the hill, and I was running really, really fast because of the downward motion made me even run really faster. But I just remember I needed to get help as I was running down the hill, and then the dream ended.
Wow, that was big dream, lots of animals. A dream like this, to really do it justice, would probably take an hour and a half, just so you know,
Okay.
because there's so much. And so what we want to do is like 50,000 foot level. Yeah, I kind of heard the same thing. Lions and tigers and bears, oh my. What else? Do you get any thoughts, Stuart? You're muted.
Okay, sorry. I'm still looking through. I actually am using the dictation, so I have it all written out. It's 959 words. So give me some time.
Okay. The idea that it's in your backyard represents something we've dealt with in the past. To me, it feels like COVID, frankly. The idea that, we thought it was dead, we thought it was dissected, the idea of fish, something just reminds me of fish, and even like fish stew or fish head soup reminds me of something from the Middle East to the Far East, something like you would see in China. Of course, the idea of the dragon itself representing representing China or something from China. And I'm not to say that, obviously we know COVID came from China or was initially released there or whatever. But I thought it was interesting, the description of the half of a fish head, like cut in half, or like its time was cut short. It seemed like it was in pieces. But then what happened is it started to come alive, and then you ran inside and voluntarily locked yourself down. You went into lockdown mode again, which I think is interesting, because that's what situations like that are designed to do. There are people that use the media and whatever to create fear, so people will do what they're told. And in particular, they're told, don't go outside and take this and do that, and we'll keep you safe. And then we find out a year or two later that not only did they not keep us safe, they were intending to kill us all along, and on and on and on it goes. So I feel like this is a resurgence of that. The idea that you wanted to make sure that your dog was secure, representing your friends. You told your sister, and then you went out to look at some place where you could buy stuff, and you didn't buy anything. So what I hear is not buying it this time. Then you actually went back to the place where yes, exactly, Dawn, not buying it. You went back to the place where the beasts were, and they weren't there. And then they were up in the trees, so they were hiding. They were trying to pretend like it was something different than what it was. And then you saw the lion and the dog. I feel like you wanted to protect the lion from the dog at this point. And then you saw the bears, but the bears seemed docile. There's just a whole lot of creatures, animals, things happening. A lot of it in your backyard. So we believe that the backyard in this case particularly represents the past, something that is behind you, something that you've seen before, but something close to home, something that has affected you or all of us, which COVID and the lockdowns and all of that stuff did. The idea of not buying it, I think, is very, very key, because what's going to happen in the days to come, and we're not the only ones saying this, there's a lot of people that are saying this, a lot of the prophetic people are saying this, but not even just the prophetic people that aren't prophetic or necessarily spiritual at all, see the writing on the wall that they're going to try some more things, and they're going to see what happens. And my recommendation is to not comply at all, to not, remember, go look up all the memes and remember all the things of how 99% of everything the media told us was proven wrong, proven to be a lie. The experts were proven not to be experts, but to be liars. The science was proven not to be science at all. And these are the same people that want to tell us there's more than two genders. So their credibility is absolutely defunct. The credibility of the media, the credibility of the government science experts at this point is not even, it's not even the fact that they're lying anymore. It's the fact that it's actually a joke if we listen to pretty much anything they say. Now, people could say that that's irresponsible and dangerous, but I don't think it is at all. I think you have to trust God. You're going to have to take your own counsel. You're going to have to listen to people that aren't bought into the system. And unfortunately, we had everything from pastors and churches and politicians and Hollywood elites, supposedly, and CEOs of major companies, all in on the snow jobs, probably most of them on the take, a lot of them receiving money to perpetuate a lie in America. And not just America, but around the world. And so what we got to do is not fall for it again. We got to make sure that when this comes, when the dragon tries to rear its ugly head in the future, we're like, no, we're not going to put up with it. We're not going to buy it. We're not going to be part of it. And I think this has to do with that. A dragon to me reminds me of a royal creature. If you think of like Game of Thrones, it was what the queen would ride on. And so the idea of the crown, of course, COVID or Corona meaning crown, there's just a lot there. But this is what we're dealing with. It's a attempted resurgence of a monster that has been proven to be false and dissected. And though it's been dissected and taken apart, there are still people that are going to try to make a big deal out of it, try to control other people with it, try to make us afraid. And we just recommend that we remember we're not going to buy it, and it's not going to have any bearing on our lives in the future. Does that make any sense?
Yes. I was going to make one quick comment before you say something, Stuart, was when you said COVID, it just made me think of before COVID, because there's a dog in the dream and there's a lion that is wanting to devour it. But in real life, my dog got attacked twice before COVID, right before COVID, just by a random two dogs, separate incidences, ran out, tried to hurt him. Another dog got loose and he almost died twice. And I just remember like, wow, what a spiritual attack. It seemed like during that days of COVID, everything was crazy. It was like, our world was unleashed, with just poison,
So I was looking through, and you were fearful in this dream a lot. You were running from something, and you went to the back of the house and you were scared. You started closing all the doors and feeling like you're in crisis. Then you go down, skipping down to the second scene where you're looking from a bird's eye view. So I think this is the key to all of us, is that we cannot allow the spirit of fear to take over here. If we're truly Christians, really believing God, we've got to operate from a place of faith and not allow fear, because that's how the devil takes a foothold. You are closing the door, so you're shutting the devil out. You're making a decision to look at this from not just from a bird's eye view, but from a reasonableness. Like, if I believe God, He has a plan for my life, I do not need to fear. Even if I get COVID, I never feared getting it. I just want, it's just so I think that's kind of AI, is that when these things hit, choose faith over fear and close the doors to the devil and whatever he plans to try to do, because he actually can't do anything to you except make you scared.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my 2 cents.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That was really helpful.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's timely. I think it's bigger than just you. I think it's something we all need to hear. But yeah, good dream.
All
All
right.
right.
Thank you so
Thank you so
much, you
much, you
two.
two.
All right. Thanks for being on. Appreciate you. All right. Sorry if you guys are hearing echo. We're trying to deal with the echo a little bit here. Um, in light of that, though, I did want to talk about a few things. With potentially more drama coming in the fall, and as we're approaching an election year, and make no mistake about it, it's because we're in an election year that a lot of the narrative that's being pushed in the media, in particular, is false, is fear mongering, is detracting from certain players that, frankly, the establishment, the left in particular, but even the establishment right, is absolutely terrified of certain people, namely Donald Trump, but others as well, people that want to see righteousness and justice and truth restored in this country. At the end of 2019, I turned off the media, like all the media, like not just CNN, but Fox, not, all the alternative media, all the podcasters, Christian or not Christian, prophets or not, that are getting on and saying, well, I have sources and I can't tell you who, but blah, blah, blah. They're useless. That's useless information to me when people tell me things that I can't verify. And so what I decided is I'm going to listen to sources that I can trust. Now, most of you know my journey about understanding that I know that all dreams come from God. Zero equivocation. I argued against that philosophy for 4 years. I did a 2-year deep dive in scripture. I did 2 years of only interpreting nightmares. To me, I'm 100% convinced the Bible is super, super clear. All dreams come from God. If dreams make you uncomfortable, you should especially listen to those, because a good third to half of the dreams in the Bible absolutely terrified the people that had them. You cannot interpret dreams through emotion. So if you're having troubling dreams, stuff like we just heard, they're probably dreams that we need to listen to, in particular, seek an interpretation on. That being said, I understand that we live in unsettling times. Now more than ever, it's important that you listen to your dreams, because your dreams are not through a human being. They're not coming in through your soul or through the second heaven or through a place where people like to say, well, it could be demonically influenced. No, the enemy does not have that technology to crawl into your subconscious mind at night and make you see something. There's nowhere in scripture that says he does. If he did, would we not all be watching Freddy Krueger on repeat every night so that none of us would get any rest? So I know that there's a lot of urban myths out there when it comes to theology on dreams. Don't believe any of them. Actually do your research, dive deep into scripture. The Dreams Through the Bible Study series that we have free on YouTube here on Dream Life Decoded is a good way to do that. But another really great way, if you really want to understand what's going on in these times, in these troubled times that we're in, knowing that we can't believe the government and that we can't listen to any media at all. They've proven themselves to be the biggest liars probably on the planet. What you got to do is you got to press into God. So we're having our last spiritual intelligence mentorship of the year. Will be launching September 25th. And this is a really unique opportunity for you to come into a community of people. You guys on Live Dreams, you see a little bit of our community, but you're kind of involved on the fringes. If you really want to be involved and you want to see the intelligence that God is giving us through dreams, and we're tracking the top dreams of all of the top dreamers and the top prophetic voices in America and around the world right now. We're consolidating that information, centralizing it, and hearing what God is saying at a very, very deep level. Again, what we do on Live Dreams is simply a taste. It's kind of a base level. It's a 50,000 foot view, but there's a whole nother world that can open up to you if you really want to press in and understand what God is saying. I would venture to say that there probably isn't a more important skill in your lifetime that you could learn than how to hear God through the figurative language of what he's saying to you personally in dreams. Why do I say that? Because dreams are hardwired directly into your spirit, as the Bible says. God seals his instruction on your heart. It's not through a pastor. It's not through a prophet. It's not through a talking head. It's not through a alleged leader that may or may not be compromised, may or may not have a life full of sin, may or may not be bought off and paid off by nefarious agendas. This is God to you. And it's one of the very rare sources of communication. Certainly, God can speak to you directly. Most of the time, people doubt their own voice of God. But when it's a dream, you did not create that. You did not come up with that. You did not think that. It wasn't your soul. It wasn't the enemy. It was God speaking to you directly. And to learn how to discern what God is saying is perhaps the most invaluable skill that you could have. When we look in the lives of Joseph and Daniel, they were promoted to the number 2 or number 3 person in the largest empires on the planet at that time because they interpreted one dream for a king that made the king trouble. And so if you've been sitting on the fringes, if you've been joining us on live dreams, if you've been watching us on His Glory, if you've been being like, wow, this is really cool and I like what's happening here, but I'm ready to really take the plunge. The fall of this year is being predicted by prophetic voices, by those of us that are tracking spiritual intelligence and dreams, as it could be a little bit bumpy. And I can tell you this, whatever happens, you're going to want to hear from God directly on things for you and your family and your church and the communities and the people that you lead, your companies, whatever. And so I want to personally invite you to be part of the Spiritual Intelligence Mentorship. It's an 8-week program, 2 days a week, 2 hours each time for 8 weeks. I'm going to give you a little bit of a ad here that shows you what it's about. And then we're going to come back and you're going to hear just a quick testimony from somebody. The reason I'm taking the time in live dreams to do this is because this, again, is perhaps, I believe this is the most important thing that you could do right now to secure the future of our nation, but the future of your family, your churches, anybody that you lead, is to understand how to hear from God directly in dreams at a much, much deeper level than is currently being taught in the church, in the Christian ethos right now. There's a very, very base level dream dictionary, kind of sort of literal, pretty much common sense kind of theology out there related to dreams. And that's not what we're seeing at all. We're seeing stuff that happened in the election months before it happened. We're seeing stuff that we say, and then somebody like President Trump says it 8 months later. And they're saying the exact same thing that we saw 8 months in advance before it happened. We're seeing things. We can't share a lot of these stories publicly just because of the people and the leaders that are involved. But if you are part of the Spiritual Intelligence Mentorship, we do a background check on you. We do vet you spiritually. We do pray over you, and you sign an NDA when you're involved. We treat dreams like intelligence. And I mean like 3-letter agency intelligence. And the stuff that God is speaking in dreams, if you've never been around that world, would absolutely blow your mind. And it would be a couple of people that have been through the program are kind of chiming in, but it'll be mind-blowing for you and valuable for you in the days to come to see how God speaks in the figurative language of dreams. So let me roll this for you here so you can see a little bit more what it's about.
In 2018, a conversation between 2 friends sparked the question, if we really believe we can hear from God in dreams, visions, prophecy, why isn't there a full-time intelligence agency using these gifts to help keep America safe? Over the next year, the need for this agency was confirmed through multiple dreams, and the Spiritual Intelligence Service was born. Spiritual intelligence is the gathering and analysis of information from righteous spiritual sources to formulate a conclusion and facilitate actionable intelligence. In the Spiritual Intelligence Mentorship, also known as SIM, we will teach you to interpret dreams by hearing the voice of God directly, including dreams from and about U.S. presidents. As part of SIM, you will have a role in decoding divine messages used to advise world leaders and impact current events. There is a place for you in SIM. Join us today at spiritualintel.com.
So we have Angie with us. She's a recent graduate of the Spiritual Intelligence Mentorship. Hi, Angie. How are you? You're muted.
My goodness, I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Cool. Well, I just wondered if you just take a minute or two and share with us what your experience was like and what you've learned and how it's impacted your life.
Absolutely. So we learn dreams and visions and prophecies through the Bible, mostly the dreams. And what's really awesome is you get to decode your own dreams, and you get to learn as you go how to hear from the Lord. And John is not kidding when he says that you sometimes have movie type of dreams, or for me, the Lord speaks to me in songs. So I'll hear songs that he'll show me in the morning or in the dream, and it will correlate with the lyrics of the dream, and you get to learn that. And not only do you get to learn how to personally get closer to God, but you get to help a community that is seeking for answers. You know, we, as John was saying, we don't look to the media, we look to God, and we say, hey, what is truly going on in this world? And he'll give you a dream. He does not hold back. And it's kind of difficult to overcome the fear of thinking, oh my gosh, my dreams come at by God of this universe, but it's so enlightening to know that he speaks to you directly. So if you feel that tug on your heart, or if you're like, man, I don't know, you demand that doubt to be gone and you sign up. You are meant to be here.
Wow. Thank you. We sure appreciate having you as part of our community. And like I said, guys, this is just a taste. What we do on Live Dreams is probably the most kind of fringe taste of what we do. We have meetings on a regular basis. We have teams that meet weekly. We have Zoom calls. We have leadership calls. We have prayer together. If you've ever seen an event happen like a 9/11 and God spoke to you and you're like, man, I had a dream about something similar, or I had somewhat of a premonition that something was going to happen and then it happened. Could very well be that you have a gift of spiritual intelligence, that God is sharing with you something about what could happen and affect our world in a positive way. We've been able to work with people that I can't even name, but leaders and just say agencies, because of some of the things that God has given us. And so what we want to do is we want to train you. The reason we want to train you that's different than a lot of like the church style dream interpretation is because we go much, much deeper. We look at dreams as intelligence, and therefore we understand intelligence. We read books on intelligence. We study the intelligence community and what they're doing and how they handle reports and dossiers, how they put information together, how they avoid cognitive bias, cognitive dissonance. This isn't just your average, oh, just pray and wait for God to give you. Like, we go deep into stuff, even to the point of showing people how to write reports that are modeled after the president's daily brief, and how to be able to brief somebody with information that you've received because of a dream that they had. And so it's fascinating. We have one class that we're going to do yet this year. It starts September 25th. If you're at all interested, you can apply at spiritualintel.com. We would love for you to consider being a part of it if it's something that you're interested in, just because most of the people you see, everybody that co-hosts with me, like Stuart, like Angie, they've all been through it. Fair amount of the people that come on have been through it. And even a lot of the people that are making comments have been through some of this. Not everybody has, but a lot of you, we also have a Facebook group called the Dream Lab that a lot of you are in, and you post your dreams in there. A lot of people that respond are people that have been trained in spiritual intelligence. And many of you that have kind of seen some of that stuff, you've looked around kind of the outsides of the community and you've said, man, I know when I have a dream, I want to either be on Tuesday nights or I want to go to the Dream Lab. And we really appreciate that you're part of that. But I would just say, because of the time that we're in an unprecedented season, we would never be talking about the government, about COVID, about government agencies, about presidents, the way that we are that we are right now. Could you imagine what's happening with Trump if that happened during the days of Reagan? I mean, even Nixon's time, what we're seeing is unprecedented. We are in uncharted territory in our nation right now. And now more than ever, we need to hear from God, hear what he's saying in our lives, and be able to manage our life and our country accordingly. Mm-hmm. And so that's just my admonishment to you. That's why one of the reasons why we do live dreams is to be able to share with you the power of dreams, and hopefully you can get touched and God will bless you and you can see that dreams are important. But I wanted to personally invite all of you that have been with us for a while, that have, even if you're tuning in for the first time, if you are a dreamer, if you feel attracted to dreams, if you want, if you want to understand what it's like to really be able to dive deep, we get tired of saying, man, you can't make this stuff up. And there are days that it feels like we live in the twilight zone because we're seeing things come to pass that we saw prophetically through dreams 5-6 months, sometimes a year ago. And it's absolutely amazing. It also gives you that confidence in God and how he's leading you and your family, particularly in troubled times. And so I would just encourage you, again, if you're at all interested, look us up at spiritualintel.com. And thanks for being on, Angie.
You're welcome.
We appreciate having you.
See ya.
All right. So let's get back to some dreams. Joanne.
Hey, John. Hey, Steve.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm going to mute so people can hear without my echo. But you're one of our favorite people. We're glad you're here.
Oh, thank you so much. Is the echo better now? Thumbs up. Okay, good. So I had this dream last Tuesday morning, and it has 3 scenes, 3 parts. It's very short. So the dream starts with me in my dining room, and I look out the dining room window, and I notice that there's a major hurricane going on. It's like it was all gray, tons of wind, tons of rain. It was a really bad one. You can't see anything. And I'm just looking out there like, wow, And I noticed this cat. I got a picture of what this cat looked like, the best I could find. It's a yellow cat with a little bit of white under him. I think this is a tabby. I don't know a lot about cats, but I was watching him. He was really fighting for his life out there. And I was just concerned about him. And all of a sudden he gets slammed up against the window, like the side of his body just bam. And I was like, oh my gosh, no. And he starts to like walk off with this little ledge on the window. And all of a sudden he gets slammed again. And I was like, oh my gosh, that poor cat. I was so concerned about this cat. He seemed like he was trying to find shelter from the storm. And then all of a sudden he jumps through this hole that was in the window. And I didn't know the hole was there. The hole was about this big around, like a softball had been thrown through the window. And this window was from ceiling to floor. And that's not how my real window is. And this is not my real house in the dream either. So the cat just suddenly just jumps through this hole in the window right onto my lap. And I was relieved because he got out of the storm. I really remember wearing a white terry cloth robe as well. And it seemed like in a split second, the cat jumped back through the hole, back out into the storm, and my dog went after him. This was not my real dog. And then I was so concerned, like, my dog, I got to go get my dog. So the second scene was I went outside to get my dog, and I noticed next door there were like 6 or 7 ladies standing in the front yard just talking. I let them know. I was like, oh my gosh, my dog got out. Can you help me get my dog? And I saw my dog in the street. And then the scene changed. The last scene was we were back inside the house. Me and my dog were back inside the house. It's not my real dog. And the dog immediately wanted to go back through the hole again, back outside, but I was carrying a purse and I kind of swung my purse in front of the dog, right in front of his face, to just kind of block him from being able to go out. And that was the whole thing.
Wow. That's interesting. Interesting dream. So the hurricane represents the storm. We've heard people have said the storm is upon us, the storm is coming, I am the storm. There's all these memes out there about what the storm is. I think if you look at the political landscape of America, particularly in relation to truth, righteousness, justice, and truth, there are those three things that keep coming up in dreams. And these are things that God wants to restore. Everything from the narrative to the truth behind what's really happened historically, which we've been lied to almost categorically about almost everything. So it's not just the narrative of the media and the present, but it's also the people that are trying to rewrite history and feed our kids a bunch of malarkey and try to create new victim classes and new different divisions and separations based on imagined things. And I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous what's happening. But that's what's going on currently in our culture. There's probably never been a time that America has been in as much peril as it is right now. But the good news is I don't know that there's ever been such a time as dramatic as now that we can see the evidence of God being on the move in America. Particularly what's been happening with just even the war of good versus evil. You see some of the things that's happening with like Sean Feucht and the Let Us Worship movement. And you see how the absolute crazy, brain damaged left is going after people who want to stand in front of a Capitol building and ask God to bless their state and their nation. Like you'd think that these people were committing high treason the way that Antifa and some of these other groups want to go out and persecute these people. Not even about, not only do they not want them to not have the right of free speech or free assembly, they want to shut them down and they want to commit violent acts against them. And it's just clear that it's demonic. There's so many things that are happening, things that are occurring in school board meetings, things that are happening from the news, from the media, from even in our churches, unfortunately, certainly in politics, in businesses that are trying to force agendas on people right now. And so it makes people want to withdraw. The feeling is I want to stay inside. I want to be outside of the storm. Yes, exactly. The Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. And so that's what I believe the hurricane represents. Is there's a lot swirling. There's a lot in the air. It's hard to get a clear picture. It's hard to see who's really behind what. It's hard to see a long distance. And so looking out your dining room table. So the dining room is the place where the family gathers. So a family inside, picture like the Norman Rockwell picture of when they're cooking the turkey. And they're cutting the turkey, and the dad is there cutting the turkey, and the mom is there in an apron, and she's serving the mashed potatoes, and the kids are all at the table, and then the boy's feeding the dog, and here's a biscuit or whatever, all of these things about family, about community, about safety, about what it looks like to be able to enjoy a meal in your own home. But outside, the devil is raging. Outside, there's these hurricanes. And again, if you'll notice, anything that happens in the media, we could have a rainstorm in Los Angeles, and people will swear it is the worst hurricane in the history of hurricanes. Every time the temperature gets a little bit high or a little bit low, we now have to invent new ways. It's the polar ice cap northern wind anomaly. Like they're just making stuff up at this point. And if you look back 40 or 50 years, the temperatures were about the same in Texas. Yeah, it's a hot summer. You live in Texas. It's always been hot in Texas. None of this is new. But whereas before it would be a picture of green and maybe 100 degrees, now the whole state is painted in red as if it's on fire, as if it's red alert. And again, a lot of this is fear mongering by the media, by those that want to control the narrative, by the powers that be, by people who want to come in and take our rights and our liberties and our freedoms away. They want to say it's not the corporate people that are flying around in their jets all over the world to attend these ridiculous meetings that solve nothing other than to to want to formulate an agenda against God and against freedom like they do in Davos and the World Economic Forum. That's not the issue. The issue is you eating meat and cow farts. And so we need to eat beetles and we need to fast most of the day. And you should only eat 4 hours a day. And look at all of the trends, everything from being vegan to intermittent fasting is, I believe, an attempt to try to wean people off food because they want to control what we eat and they want to control what we buy and they want to control us is what they want to do. And I agree. They're putting out fear porn or scandal porn. And unfortunately, what's happened is we see this in the church. You would think the church would be smarter than buying this. But the prophetic community now is full of constant clickbait. I heard from God. What's happening in October? Click here now, before Facebook takes this down. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And so, unfortunately, the church isn't much better. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of BS. If I dare say so, there's a lot of horse farts in what people are saying is prophetic information. It's not on the basis of 2 or 3 witnesses. It's stuff that can't be verified. And most of us just want to have a quiet family dinner with our cat. So I think it's interesting because this wasn't your house. This is talking about the household in general, the household of the American people, and floor-to-ceiling windows. Floor-to-ceiling windows. So looking out a window represents like through the looking glass. Or like in 1 Corinthians 13, now we see through a mirror dimly or through a glass darkly. It's seeing what's in front of us. If you're looking out your front window, it typically means looking into the future. If you're looking out your back window, typically it means the past. If you're looking out a side window, it could mean just seeing what's outside or what's coming. When there's a hurricane outside, looking out any window, you're just going to see rain and storm and the wind blowing. And so that's kind of how it is right now. If you look outside of what's going on in your own particular world, we see the storms in the schools, the storms in the public sector, the garbage legislation that people are trying to pass, the stupid stuff that these woke corporations are trying to put down everybody's throat. And you'll see that stuff happening over and over again in America. That's the setting. And it's from this setting with the floor to ceiling windows. That means we have the ability to see more than we've been able to see before. Again, in the 1960s, we didn't have 24/7 news. We weren't able to Google stuff. We didn't have Facebook, where there's probably 15 different ways that you'll find out if something happens, from Twitter to Instagram to the news, to the newspaper, to your friends, to Facebook, to all these ways. We're constantly being barraged nonstop with TikTok, with everything else. And so that's the floor to ceiling windows. We have an unprecedented view of what's going on outside in the outside world than we ever have before. So did you want to say something? You look like you were about to. No. Okay. And so in the midst of that, we have a hole that appears, and that hole is about the size of a softball.
And I didn't know.
You didn't what?
I didn't know it was there.
You didn't know it was there. And the cat was outside fighting for his life, trying to get in. It finds this hole, and I just hear like a loophole, and it comes inside, and now it's in the safety of the house. But then there's a dog, and it's not your actual dog, but there's a dog in the house. And so the cat runs back out, and the dog follows the cat back out. Right? So I believe that this represents things in our household that we care for. Could be children, could be if you lead a home group or a home church, it could be people that come into your home, break bread with you, and then go back outside. I don't believe it's even talking about animals per se. I believe it's talking about something that, like, you think of a cat. A lot of people hold their cats close to their heart, and they want to cuddle with their cat or with their little foo-foo dog or whatever. So it's the idea of something that you hold close, something that you hold dear, something that you want to keep safe and protect. Could even be children. And when that runs outside and is outside in the storm, you're like, oh my gosh, I got to go find my dog.
Yeah.
And so you go outside, and there's these 6 or 7 ladies. I think it's interesting that it's 6 or 7, 6 being number of man, 7 being the number of God or the number of heaven. So it could be a council of 6, which is like, well, that's weird. Or it could be a council of 7, which could represent the church versus man's opinion. And either way, you're looking for something that you feel like you lost. And that is something that was dear to you, and that was your friend, your dog. And so you're trying to find a way, how do I get my dog back? And who do I talk to that can tell me how to get my dog back? And so this is talking about the setting of fear. It's talking about what's going on in our country. It's talking about the whirlwind. Part of the whirlwind is justice. I think it's Young Guns 2 when it's reap the whirlwind, Sheriff Brady, and then he shoots him point blank in the head. That's because the sheriff was crooked. So even the idea of reaping the whirlwind can represent a justice movement that is bringing justice and actually executing justice, like finding people that are guilty of murder and executing them. It's no longer setting them aside, giving them 18 months for raping children or whatever the ridiculous kind of headlines that we're seeing today, or pretending that pedophilia is not a horrendous crime against kids. It's calling a spade, putting people in prison that need to be put in prison, and stop diluting our justice system, whether it's our law enforcement, federal law enforcement establishments, or whether it's our court system. Currently, we're in a case where justice means almost nothing in America, particularly on the national level, because we've made it a mockery. Not us, but the powers that be, the cases that have been allowed, the district attorneys that have been funded by nefarious people. And what needs to happen is a restoration of the safety of being outside, of the counsel that we keep, and how to keep the next generation and those things that we hold dear to us safe. Stuart, did you have any thoughts?
All of that out of that room, I don't know.
For the cat, I was seeing, he's beaten against the window. He's out in the middle of the storm. I think of the ecclesia, that a cat has 9 lives, and that we're going through a storm, and we can get hit up against the window, and we got to get back. We got to do it over and over until we're not going to let them beat us down and make us quit. So as a church, we've got to again walk by faith and not by sight, and we've got to trust the Lord in the storm. He's with us in the storm, and we're not to fight in the flesh, and we're just not going to let him beat us down. The cat wants to come in, so we get a little reprieve. We get to go in the house and rest for a little bit, and then we got to get right back out there. And your dog wanted to go out and face the world too. So that represents to me that people are out there really doing something about this, not just sitting at home watching the storm through their window.
Cool. Well, I never have these types of dreams, so I think it's pretty cool that I had this one.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I think so too. I think there's a conversation that God is having in just these first several dreams tonight about what's happening in the world, particularly in our country. And so it's interesting when we bring people who haven't gotten together and said, hey, what did you dream about? What did you dream? We just all kind of end up in this random place and say, share our dreams. And they end up being about almost the same thing almost all the time. It's because we don't have an agenda. God has an agenda with what he wants to release in these times. I think it's fascinating.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on, Joanne.
Yeah, you're welcome. Have a blessed night.
Bye. All right. Well, we got another one of our favorites here. Sydney.
Hi.
How are you?
Doing good.
Good. Tell us.
Here.
All right. Well, tell us your dream.
Okay, I had this about, I want to say at the end of July of this year. I was in my old neighborhood in California with my family. We're all going to the pool to have a family day. And then someone I know named Sam, he was at our pool, and then he comes, talks to my mom, and they're talking for about like 10 minutes. Then he leaves, and then after about 5 minutes, we leave the pool. Then we go home, and I'm in my kitchen, and there's like a little window, and I could see across the street. And at my other neighbor's house, Sam's waiting in a truck, and his dad comes out of the house, like in the garage, and he has a boy with him, like a little boy about 6, maybe 10 years old. And he's in a baseball uniform. And I didn't know if they were going to like a game or to practice. And they all get in the truck and they leave the garage door open. And that was the end.
That's the end.
The end. Well, that's interesting. That's a pretty, that's a nice short dream. I like that one. But I think there's a lot there. Stuart, I'll give you first crack at it if you want.
Okay, so you're in your old neighborhood and in California with your family. Robert, or no, what was it?
Livermore.
Okay, you're by the pool, and let's see. So Sam means God has heard, and so this probably has something to do with your old, something in the time frame of your old, when you lived in the older neighborhood. And you go from your pool where it's recreation and swimming into your kitchen where it's preparation. It's not coming together yet. So John, you go.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. So who is Sam?
He was a friend. Drama just and now we're just talking anymore.
Okay. So Sam reminds me of Samuel in the Bible, which God speaks, speak, Lord, your servant is listening, that whole thing. And he was somebody that had, obviously, for him in particular, the ability to anoint and appoint like kings. So I feel like he plays a significant role and he has a purpose and a destiny. I feel like the fact that he was talking to your mom and then he left after about 10 minutes and then you guys left 5 minutes later. I feel like it may be that he's on his own journey right now in particular. I think it's interesting that you then end up in the kitchen and you're looking out the window and then you see Sam in a truck, but then you see Sam's dad coming out of the house with like a 6-year-old boy in a baseball uniform.
Yeah.
I feel like the 6-year-old boy is Sam. I feel like there's a memory or a wound that he had related to his father that God is telling you about that may be a direct reflection on schism in your relationship right now. There was something that he, because of what we said about God reminded me of Samuel, speak, Lord, your servant is listening. I think there was something that his father said to him, probably when he was about 6 years old, probably when he was on his way to a baseball game. That is a wound that somehow was triggered through some of the interaction that's made him want to withdraw, and that he's in kind of that place by himself, which is sitting in the truck, remembering the wounds of the past. I also feel like there may be an opportunity for you to reach out and to address this with him and to see God heal your relationship.
Not what I was just like maybe just I don't know. I even asked him. I thought it was a random kid.
John needs to mute so we can hear you. Sydney, talk to him.
You mute him.
No, John's muted. So Sydney, say that again, please.
I didn't know that the 6-year-old was supposed to be him at 6. I just thought it was just a random kid. I didn't even think of. Yeah, I thought it was the neighbor. Like I didn't even think about that being him. I just thought it was the neighbor, or maybe someone they just knew.
Something
Kind of weighed on my heart a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Well, yeah, I think take that tack. That's just what I heard. It's also interesting because, again, the first thing when you say Sam is several of us thought Samuel in the Bible. And even some of the people are posting, about Samuel in the Bible, Samuel anointed David. So I'm not the only one. There's multiple people that heard Samuel. I would go back and read the story of Samuel. The story of Samuel is his mom, Hannah, desperately wanted a kid, couldn't have a kid, finally gets a son. I'll dedicate him to you for his whole life, has the baby, gives him to the high priest, and then he's raised in the house of the Lord. And when he's a young kid, I think he was 6 or maybe 8, is when he thinks he hears Samuel, who was like a father to him, speak. And so he gets up in the night and he goes to Samuel and he says, "What? You called me?" He goes, "No, I didn't call you." So he goes back. It happens again. It happens a third time. And finally Eli, which is like his dad, his adopted dad, so to speak, the guy that raised him, says, "If you hear it again, say, 'Speak, Lord, your servant is listening.'" And then what God begins to tell him is about the family drama of Eli. And so I think God is using this dream to tell you about the family drama of Sam, because God wants to restore a relationship, just like God wanted to restore the nation of Israel. But what happened is Eli's 2 sons, and Eli died in the coming battle and in the coming war that ensued, which is when David actually came in. This was later, but when David actually came in and became king. And so I think if you look at that story, I think God will speak to you. But yeah, that's what I felt when you said it was Sam's dad and he was carrying a 6-year-old. I know Sam was already in the truck, but to me, it's like Sam thinking back, remembering a time when he was 6, when if you get the opportunity to talk to Sam, approach him very gently and just, be there for him, that you want to restore the relationship. You want to hear what his heart is, and then ask him, "Did you play baseball when you were a kid? Or do you remember going to a baseball game with your dad and when you were about 6 years old? And did something happen?" And I've had family members had dreams about people who had an altercation with their dad and went into school the next day and said, "Hey, did you and your dad get into a fight last night?" And they're like, "How did you know?" "Well, I had a dream that this happened." And so, but what God is showing you here is he's showing you a very specific time frame in Sam's life that I believe was probably the initiation of the father wound that probably makes Sam want to back away when he experiences a level of conflict or drama. And I believe God is saying, if you can put your finger on that I can heal him, use you to help heal him and to help restore your relationship with him.
That's good. Good.
Pretty profound.
No, definitely. Read the Book of Sam.
Yeah, go read the Book of Samuel. Go talk to Sam, and then get back to us and let us know what happens.
Okay, definitely will. I'll definitely pray about it for sure.
So Sydney, you've had other dreams about helping your friends. Have you had any experiences since these dreams of, how you were in your room, you're supposed to be hospitable to all your friends, and now this?
Not that I. I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, I think you're kind of called to reach out to your friends, and so I was just wondering if it's happened yet.
Well, I'll speak on that one. A lot of the young people that have come into her life are very broken and have a lot of different home issues. And then they come here and they get loved on by Sydney and welcomed into our home. And I think that there's restoration and healing in that. And God uses this woman to just, she's like a little collector of broken people. So
I don't know. I do find people, because then they tell me, "Hey, my parents are getting divorced, so I'm not having a good relationship with my sister."
Right.
I'm like, okay, and then
you did share a dream that sounded just like this.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Mm.
Yeah, you're in an apartment, and I don't know. We were just talking about you need to make it hospitable, and anyway. I think you're walking out your dreams.
I had have so many written down. I can't remember which one's which.
Well, we know that she's very prophetic, and she just needs to think, reading the story of Samuel, and really it's always going, dig deeper with the Lord, because Mom can't dig deep for her. That's her relationship with Jesus. So yeah. Hi, Stuart. Hello, lovely lady. So I have a short dream, but if there's no time, mine's even shorter. But if not, it's okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So this is a part of a dream already, which I've already started to decode it. But at one point, I'm in a hotel, and I'm walking past a room, 1620, and there's smoke coming out of the peephole. And there's a young man standing next to me. I say, bang on the door and let them know that there's fire. And he bangs on the door, and on the other side of the door is a lady hiding, and she doesn't want to answer it. And so I'm thinking maybe I'll pull the fire alarm and warn them. But then I thought, I don't want to disturb everybody in the hotel room. So I have the young man bang on again, and the lady does nothing. So I run down to my room, 1624, to call 911. And that was it.
Just hope you don't go to hotels and fire.
So I'm decoding the dream. That one was, that part with the smoke coming out of the peephole. I mean, I hear where there's smoke, there's fire. But other than that, I'm like, I don't know. It's, 1620 and 1624. We're entering into 50, the year, I forget the number. It's a 4 at the end, both 24 in the Hebrew calendar ending in 4. So.
Well, it's interesting that 16, could be the election year 2020 and the next one 2024. And you're outside the door with the smoke. So the smoke might be the Holy Spirit or something more I mean, I don't know if it's positive or negative, but I kind of think it's positive. John.
The lady hiding on the other side, not
Okay.
Come out.
So you're out in the hall, and I thought you said there was a guy inside. No, it's the young man. Oh, he was standing next to you, and y'all both saw the smoke.
He warned the lady by banging on the door, and she's kind of cowering behind the door, not wanting to answer out of fear.
Yeah, well.
Like, why are you banging on my door? Well, we're yelling, there's fire. So.
Yeah, there's that fear thing again.
Yeah, I think it could be a date. I heard the same thing, what happened in 1624. Monica also heard where there's smoke, there's fire. Apparently there was Oslo was a city that was destroyed by fire in 1624.
Oh, very interesting is the Lord gave me a word back in 2021 and said cities would be on fire. And I wrote all these cities down. Hawaii was on that list along with other big name cities and states, but that it was going to be all at once. So I don't know. Yeah, that was interesting that you said that there's a city in 1620. You said 1624, 1620 that has this fire.
I saw the one in 1624. I just did fire in 1624. I did a quick search, and it actually is a crossword clue. And it was city destroyed by fire in 1624, 4 letters. And I'm like, isn't Maui 4 letters?
Wow.
So yeah, I think there's something there related to perhaps cities on fire. But I also do think that there could be a connection to the election. I think all of that's related. Where there's smoke, there's fire represents the idea of exposure. There's a lot that's happening with exposure right now. I feel like we're about to enter the peak of exposure I'm going to do probably a Dream Talks in a week or so about that, specifically about an open vision that God gave me about exposure and actually about 9/11 too. So it's tied into 9/11. Probably we'll do the show on 9/11. But yeah, there's a lot that's going on with people setting fires. Oh, this is interesting. 1624 in Strong's is to set forth or declare. Yeah, and the idea of being in a burning room, being caught or trapped in a burning room, I feel like is somebody that wants to escape a problem, could be a problem of their own creation. And we're seeing the results, which is just the smoke filter out. But there's so much more to be discovered. That's why I feel like it has to do with exposure and some things that are coming soon.
We also need to, John, we also need to look at the fact that they're blowing smoke and there is no fire. The smoke's a distraction. So you are using discernment. Do I pull the fire alarm or do I not? So we really need discernment to know whether it's just smoke or if there's really fire.
Let's be quick to listen and slow to speak. Maybe that's it. There's a lot of construction going on in the dream too. So that there's definitely some more as I decode it, some connections with that. Yeah, for sure.
Quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to light our own cities on fire.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. That might be one you want to send in.
Okay.
Just to see.
But it's a long dream.
I'm talking like
No, but most of my dreams, but I know how to pull it. Yeah, and that's the one I don't know how to. It was just so strange. The peephole is what stuck out to me. So she's watching me, I'm watching her. So
Wow.
Yeah.
That was that Sam calling?
No, that was a lady I used to work at the church.
Yeah.
That's not him.
Okay, well, cool dreams. Thanks for coming on and sharing, guys. It's always good to see you.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right, Moriah.
Is that better?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to mute so we don't echo.
Okay, so this dream is a dream that I had about someone that I've followed on YouTube for a long time. And she is a minister. And so I'm in like one of her, it's like a year-long kind of membership, like class thing that she does. She teaches all sorts of different things. Dream interpretation is one of them, but the current thing I'm doing right now doesn't have to do with dreams. It's called DTA, Destiny Training Academy. But anyway, so this dream, I was on a couch with her. So her name is Dr. Faith. So I was on a couch with her and her daughter, and we were kind of like snuggling, and I was playing with her hair. She's an African-American lady, and she usually wears like wigs, but this was her natural hair. It was short, and I was like playing with her hair, and her daughter was talking to us or telling me about like all of the places that they've lived and what she liked about, you know, her favorite places. Also to note, I believe Dr. Faith's mom was also in the room. She just wasn't on the couch with us. She was like on a chair in the living room somewhere else. So her daughter is telling me about how she really liked Africa. They used to live in Africa, and she really liked it there because there was a lot to do there. And then there was a place in the middle that she didn't really talk about. And then there was the current place that they lived at. And I remember seeing it on a map, but I don't know what it was. I believe it started with an H, but she said that she also likes living there because there's a lot to do there as well. I feel like it was, you know, a bigger city. So that was it for that scene. So then the next scene, we're at a, like a conference that Dr. Faith is putting on. She does that in real life. and she's doing worship on the stage. I'm laying on the stage, like with a pillow and a blanket and everything. I'm laying there, and she's doing worship, and she has this metal thing that she's banging as part of worship. Togo. Sorry. Togo. No. Okay. I'll try to hurry and finish this before he starts barking again. So she's banging the gong. No, Togo. It's okay. And so then I decide, okay, I need to wake up. I need to get off the stage. So I get up and I climb off the stage, and there's a lady in the audience. She just smiles at me. And then I go and I sit down next to my husband. He was already like sitting down in there. I'm doing a dream interpretation, babe. And then so I go and I sit next to my husband. Well, he had been talking with this other gentleman there that he had just met. So when I went and sat next to him, this gentleman wanted to tell me all about himself. And he was very happy, chipper guy. And he just said, "Hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm a lawyer and I have 2 cars." And he was just like very excited to kind of like brag himself up a little bit, but just to tell me about himself, like not a pride thing, but just, he was just a happy guy. But yeah, he said he was a lawyer and he had two cars. And I believe those 2 cars were specifically for his career. It wasn't like, I have 2 cars. It was like those, like that's how important kind of, or how successful he was as a lawyer, was he had 2 vehicles for that job. And that was it.
Interesting. I like this dream for you. This is a really good dream. It's a destiny dream. It's about destiny and identity for you. And it's about a call in your life.
Okay.
So the biggest glaring obvious thing is you're very comfortable on stage.
Oh, yeah.
As in being a speaker, being in front of people, like to the point that you could go, you feel super comfortable, take my blanket, my pillow, fall asleep up there. Like the idea also that you're sleeping means that God is going to give you revelation through dreams that you're going to be able to share in a public place.
Okay.
So you're literally sleeping on stage, and so which is awesome. The journey of faith. Go ahead.
Oh, I said that is cool. I didn't think about that. I was worried that it was a negative thing, like being asleep. Like you need to wake up. So
no, I think the part of you wanting to wake up was we don't realize we've been dreaming until we wake up. And then when we wake up, and so many times in the Bible, even like Jacob's first dream, he woke up and then he realized, or he revelated, that it was a dream. So you get the revelation, not necessarily in the dream because you're still in the dream.
yeah.
You get revelation when, and wow, this is God speaking, because I don't think I've ever said this. When you go to a different place, like when you go to a different dimension, you capture something from that place and you bring it back into the real world waking life. That's how you live in a place of revelation. It's almost like going into the future and seeing something. That's how the prophetic works. You go into a place in the future, you see through a window. God gives you something that you see visually, or he tells you something that you can then take back with you in present day and then let people know, I know it's about to happen.
Yeah.
Or you can go into the past and God can give you insight into people's hurts or into situations, even into history of nations. And that's what happens a lot of time in dreams, is it literally allows you to almost like teleport. People always ask me, it was so accurate. It was like I was really there. Was I really there? Was it an encounter? Did God like remove my spirit from my body and take me to some place? Or was it just a dream? And my answer is, does it matter?
Right.
Because you probably wouldn't be able to tell either way. But I know people that have dreamt about stuff that happened 50 years ago before they were alive. And then I'll go and I'll find a picture of the meeting with the people at the table and the same picture on the wall that they saw in their dream. And I'll send it to them and they absolutely freak out.
Wow.
Because they're like, that was real. Like that was, everything you saw in your dream was real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, so I think that's the idea of revelation. You have a gift of revelation. but you also have, it's interesting because you meet this guy that's a very friendly guy that's talking to your husband, and he wants to introduce himself. And I wrote down happy lawyer, 2 cars. So a car represents like a vehicle to destiny. And I feel like the reason that he opens up to you, because typically you don't think of lawyers as being the friendly type necessarily. You know, you're not like, oh, my best friend, a lawyer, you know. Typically they're reserved. They most of us don't view lawyers in the highest regard, because when we deal with lawyers is when we're going usually through a major amount of drama.
Right.
But I feel like, you know, who we are attracted to is people like us. So I feel like this guy was like a mirror of you.
Okay.
And that's why he was a male and you're a female, because he was like I was like looking in a mirror, which means you have a justice call in your life. But it also means you have 2 vehicles to destiny, not just one. Could be business and ministry, or could be business and spiritual intelligence or revelation, or, you know, whatever. It's not just, you're not like a one-trick pony here.
Okay.
You got 2 things that God wants to do. And when we said the name of her channel or whatever, I wrote DTA, and I noticed that DTA is a lot like ETA, estimated time of arrival. And what I heard was destiny time of arrival. And then 2 cars are 2 vehicles to destiny, that basically you get to choose which car you drive and when. You could be operating from a place of revelation and a place of being very, very comfortable on stage. Well, even the stage scene, there's 2 things happening there. There's the dreamer life, which is the place of revelation, which is something that happens to you personally. And then there's the being on stage, which represents having a platform and a voice.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think that's part of your journey of faith, is the idea that you're going to have more than one thing to do. And that there's going to be different seasons for you. There's going to be seasons where you're in one car, seasons where you're primarily in the other, seasons where you kind of do both. But it's interesting how you're talking to Faith and Faith's daughter, right?
Yeah.
And they're talking about their journey, particularly their time in Africa. And they liked where they are now. They didn't like where they were in the middle. And I feel like you're coming out of the middle into a place where you are now, where there's been times of your life where you've labored at things, or you've built things, or it's been more tedious and maybe a little bit more striving. And now you're entering into having influence through a place of rest.
Yeah.
Where God is just going to add to you supernaturally. It's not going to be like going out and recruiting all your friends for this or that, or, you know, pulling teeth like being in sales. It's going to be like people are attracted to you because of the influence that God's given you. And it's in a place of rest where you're going to see those things happen. And it fits into the justice call that you have on your life. And it fits in to the fact that you actually have 2 vehicles to destiny that are going to work simultaneously to your benefit and to the benefit of the world.
Okay. Wow. That totally resonates. All of it does. So yeah. And do you think? Sorry.
Do you really know this person? Do you know Dr. Faith in person, or you just take the
No, I've never met her in person, but God's given me a lot of dreams about her.
Yeah,
and
well, I think
she lives in North Carolina, and I've also had lots of dreams. I shared one on here where we're looking for houses in North Carolina. I got into the back of a black vehicle with her one time, a black truck. So I'm just wondering if there's some sort of ministry.
Yeah, I think that it's that part of it is you're in on the couch with her daughter, right? And then is that correct? So that you were like her child, you're being taught by her, and you're part of the family, and you're receiving part of her, a mantle.
Yeah.
What do you call it? An anointing from her. So
Okay.
It sounds like your ministry will be similar, or at least empowered by that type of anointing.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Super cool dream. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah. I an interesting dream too. It sounded like a fun one.
Yeah. I really like the fact that you're asleep on stage. That's just classic. You know, we would think how out of place that would be if that was reality. But imagine just crawling up on stage during your pastor speaking with your own pillow and your own blanket. But that's literally how comfortable you'll be.
Okay.
And it'll be because the platform that God gives you, you don't get through striving. You get through rest and revelation.
Okay.
And rest and revelation together is the dream world. Like God is going to give you strategies and things in the dream world through revelation from a place of rest that are going to build a bigger platform than you have now and are going to launch you into things like speaking, maybe teaching, having more of a voice. And it's going to be so easy. It's not going to be, so many people work so hard to try to build a level of notoriety or whatever, and that's not going to be how it's going to happen for you.
Well,
it's going to be
that totally resonates because for the last 4 years, I would say I've been really striving and seeking and trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do, and I'll try certain things, but it just doesn't feel like it comes natural. I'll work somewhere and then decide, okay, I need to be back home. So that definitely resonates. And I definitely feel like I'm going into, I feel like I'm definitely going into a place of rest and peace, and God's asking me to let go of striving and just not try to figure it all out. Just let go with the flow and let him, guide. And that's definitely where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I also thought it was cool that you went and sat by your husband. So there's going to be, a lot of time for family, and your husband, either will support you and be there with you while you're on stage, or you'll leave the stage and then you'll still have time. It won't be like this living as separate lives kind of a thing.
Cool.
It'll be he's there with you, which I think is really cool. But you definitely have a journey and a destiny and a calling that's your own.
Yes. Okay. Cool. I love that. Yeah. I definitely want him with me wherever God takes me. So, and by the way, the sim course, I think we're going to start it in January. Do you do your next one in January?
Yeah, we're going to do one in January. We might actually do one in person in a week. So it wouldn't take 8 weeks. It would just be in person kind of a thing.
Cool.
So we're looking at that concept just because we want to be able to unload people that want to progress quickly.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have some information out about that as it gets closer to the holidays.
Awesome. Well, I'm definitely interested in doing that for sure. So look forward to that.
Cool. We'd love to have you guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
For your time.
All right. Thanks for coming on, Mariah. We'll see you.
Okay. See you. Bye.
All right. Let's go with Gail. Hi, Gail. I'm going to mute so we can hear you. You're muted. I need you to unmute, and I'll mute.
Okay. How's that? Okay. So I have a pretty short dream. In the dream, I'm looking into a closet, like a coat closet. The closet is completely empty. And in the top portion of the closet, where normally there would be like a shelf, that whole area turns into like a movie screen. And I can't make out what's on the screen. It's like just flashing like colors. Either it's like a movie that's like in such super fast motion. I'm trying to see what it is, but I can't make out any of what it is. It's almost like pixelated pictures, like different colored spots. It's just moving so fast. And then I feel myself like being drawn closer to it. And I'm like, stop thinking, okay, this is weird. This is a little scary. And I start to turn away, and I kind of start to feel myself starting to wake up. And then I feel a nudge that says, no, keep looking. So I keep watching, and then the screen goes silent, blank. And then there's a brown coat hanging in the closet. And in the lapel pocket of the coat, there's just something stuck in there that's kind of a yellow gold color. And that's it. It's an old coat. It's not a coat you would go to the store and buy nowadays. It's like an old coat, like maybe wool coat, very plain, straight cut, just coat. And that's it. That's the end of the dream.
Wow, this is a super fun dream. It's very fascinating. The first thing that I heard was the wardrobe, like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And so I thought, well, it's like entering into a different dimension. God is wanting to show you something. But then you said it was empty, which is interesting. But then you talked about this movie screen. So a movie screen represents the seer realm. The fact that it was on a shelf higher up represents a part of the seer realm that you haven't reached into yet. It's also a part of the seer realm. It's been a little bit out of your reach, but it also moves super fast, meaning God is going to show you what's happening, not 3 years down the road, but like 3 days down the road or 3 hours down the road. He might show you things that are happening very, very quickly. And I think it's super interesting because, while you were saying it's moving too fast, it's pixelated, it's hard for me to see. In my mind, I was like, shut the door, like close yourself in the closet to see if you can get a better view. And to me, what that means is the idea of leaning in. And then you heard this voice that said, don't turn away, keep watching, which is the same kind of a thing. It's like, press into what is hard to see and what is hard to understand, because I'm going to show you something and there's going to be a deposit for you. And when you do that, the mantle appears. So the mantle is the coat. A coat is something like the coat of many colors that Joseph had, something that brings color and revelation and literally and clarity. But this is an old brown coat, which means it's something that has been, it's a mantle that was in past seasons. And I hear like perhaps a time of war. I almost see like a brown leather bomber jacket with like the fur on the collar is kind of something, or like a long overcoat type of thing. But typically something that you would see like in a World War II movie. Mm-hmm. It's interesting because there are other people that. So that's what it looked like.
A long I would say down.
Okay. And so I think what this mantle is God is going to give you revelation, particularly about history and about the past. Or this is a mantle that has come from past generations, either in your own life or in past seasons of history that have been similar to the one that we're in now. He's going to give you a mantle to be able to navigate the times. But what I hear is, yeah, exactly. Keep looking, press into what seems a little bit beyond your reach and what seems too fast and what's coming. There's a time of exposure that's coming. And God says before things happen, I tell my prophets, and that's not just office of the prophet. That can be people that are prophetic, that can be dreamers, that can be seers. It's really those that just have their heart or their ear to the heartbeat of the Father, and they want to hear what he is saying. And it could be something related to that, but I feel like God is going to show you something. The closet also represents the secret place, but it also represents hidden things. So you go into your prayer closet to spend time with God, but also people come out of the closet, meaning they've had a secret their whole life that is now getting exposed or revealed to the world. So it's both. In the secret place, God wants to show you secret things, but they've been a little bit above you, which is the shelf, and they've been a little bit hard to digest. Mm-hmm. And what's going to happen is as you press into that, as you keep looking, don't turn away. God is going to begin to give you the capability to be able to process faster, to understand what he's saying, to see what he's hearing. And he's going to give you, I believe it could be a generational mantle or a mantle that was used in prior seasons. Particularly, I feel like it's intel, because when we think about war and when we think about hidden secrets, a lot of times we think about intelligence. I think it may be some exposure that has to do with things in the past. Like there's a lot of exposure that's been coming about the JFK assassination, about Operation Paperclip. I think we're about to see, and I'm going to share on this in a week or so, about exposure that's going to be coming out related to 9/11. And so that is a mantle to be able to learn and understand the secrets of the past, put them in a modern context and share them with people today. But it's giving you a particular kind of understanding. And what we found is a lot of times God will share specific kind of dreams. There are some people that spend a lot of time dreaming about the past. There's other people that dream almost exclusively about the future. Some people dream a lot about the national level. Some people only dream about their family. And so God speaks to you as a different conversation with different people. So yeah, I like what Faustino is saying about the generals. It reminds me of like like General Douglas MacArthur, like again a long brown leather overcoat, and a lot of even the browns with the greens, particularly for the regular army people, the generals would wear overcoats and stuff like that, as opposed to like the Nazis who like they wore everything in black, black or black with red. But I also think it's interesting too that there is a gold lapel, which represents a level of high ranking. And so I believe that God is trusting you at a high level with intelligence. And I believe it's spiritual intelligence because it's hidden secrets. Daniel 2:22, he reveals the deep and hidden things. He knows what lies in darkness, and the light dwells with him. And that's the quintessential verse on spiritual intelligence. So I feel like God is inviting you into a deeper level of spiritual intelligence that he wants you to press into. He doesn't want you to turn away from, and he wants to give a mantle to you that perhaps can be something that carries on a generational legacy for your family, but also could be to the benefit of the nation.
Wow. That I can hear what you're saying is resounding within me. Yes.
In case it adds anything, when I heard you talking about the colors and the pictures and not coming together, I think about just in general, a picture is just a bunch of little colors. So I thought of the artwork where you get up close and you see little motifs that are all put together to make a face. And so once you get in your prayer closet, it's going to be like dream interpretation where we have to put all the pieces together. We press in, we pray, we research, and then we hear what God's saying about a dream. You're gonna see that as in visions. Like you're gonna be able to see things and know what all those colors are coming together to make. Do you kind of understand what I'm saying? You're going to be able to interpret your visions, or I don't know how. That's not really the way to say it, but you have a gift to see, like John said, and you're going to be able to see what's really in the picture.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think it's a really good dream. It's a dream of action. It's a lot of times people were trained to not take action, and we're trained to put action on God instead. And so it's easy for somebody to walk away from a dream like this and say, wow, okay, I'll pray about it. It's not a dream you need to pray about. It's a dream you need to take action with. And the action is don't turn away. And if you don't turn away, then that means turn in. How do you turn in? You turn in by turning off your phone at night, by having a journal next to your bed, or a way that you can record your dreams, by asking God every night before you go to sleep, God, speak to me in dreams. I invite you to speak to me in dreams. I welcome the mantle that you have for me. I welcome for you to show me the deep and hidden things. Like, it's interesting. I've met with people that are kind of famous for some of the dreams that they've had, and they're like, you know what? I never asked for dreams. And I'm like, well, what is wrong with you? Why wouldn't you ask for dreams? I ask God all the time. Like every single time I take a nap, I go to bed, I rest, I sleep at night. Sometimes I'll ask God specific questions. Sometimes I'll say, what's on your heart tonight, Papa? But I always give that invitation to God, because a relationship is a two-way street. And just like prayer is a two-way thing, I just say, God, I want you to know. I want to hear from you. And again, we talked about earlier, Samuel, speak, Lord, your servant is listening. He gave you a dream that's an invitation to let you know, I want to show you deep and hidden things, things that have been out of reach, things that have not been clear. And so now it's up to you to accept that or not accept it. And I would strongly encourage you to accept it and let him know you're accepting it. God, I want you to speak to me. Tell me the secrets of the kingdom of heaven. Tell me the secrets that you have for me. Tell me the truth of what's going on in the world. You're my source, not the news, not other leaders. I want to hear from you directly, and get yourself in a community of people that are celebrating hearing the voice of God at a deeper level, and run with those people. And I'm telling you, it'll literally change everything in your life if you do that. And the invitation is there. It's yours for the taking.
I receive it.
Awesome. Thanks for being on, Gail. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Take care. Wow. I love that. A lot of cool invitations. Linda. Hi, Linda. You're muted.
Am I good now? Okay. This is a really short dream. And first of all, I'm sorry. Thank you for taking my dream. And I feel like I have a general understanding of it, but there is one part that is just really throwing me off. So in the first scene of the dream, I'm going into a hotel meeting room to attend a seminar. And John, you're already in the seminar. And and I have a friend with me. And I go in and I sit down beside you in the seminar. In the next scene, it is a hotel sleeping room. And there are 3 beds in the sleeping room. So my friend, myself, and you, we're all in bed. And before we go to sleep, I say to you, John, I used to smoke pot, but I decided that's not a good thing to do when you serve God. So I quit. And you go, well, good night. So in the next part of the dream, I wake up by myself in the sleeping room. And I think you and my friend have probably gone to breakfast. So I go down to the hotel lobby. And I don't even have to go into the restaurant because it's got a glass wall and I can see that you guys aren't there. So I keep going until I get to the parking lot. And you are sitting in the parking lot in a van. And it's not like a minivan. It's like one of those vans that don't have any windows on the side, kind of like Scooby-Doo's Mystery Machine. And it's got a beautiful custom paint job. It's all these different colors of blue. It almost looks like it has depth to it. It's so pretty. So I walk up to the door and I say, oh, are you leaving? And you say, oh, first thing though, when I walk up to the door, I notice that there's a woman sitting in the seat next to you. And I think to myself, oh, John has a traveling companion too. It's not my friend though, but that was my thought. And then I ask you, are you ready to leave? And you say, yes, I'm leaving now. And I say, well, it was good to see you. Have a safe trip. And you lift your left hand up and there is a glass pipe. You're holding a glass pipe with weed in it. And you say, would you like some? And I say, no, I'm good. See you later. And I turn around and walk away. So you can see the part that's throwing me off.
I love it. That's great. It's the first one I've been driving the Scooby-Doo van and been a drug dealer in. That's awesome. This is such a cool dream. God has such a great sense of humor. So the idea of being in a hotel is a temporary place. Typically, it's a place of rest. We go to hotels to sleep because we're on the road, we're traveling, we're on a journey. So we're at a seminar, which is a place of learning. So part of this is an invitation to learn. The fact that you were seated next to me, I believe that what you're supposed to learn is spiritual intelligence. Yeah. You know, so it's the idea of dreams, but specifically not just dreams in general, but the idea of spiritual intelligence. And I notice you have an appeal to heaven flag behind you. I have an appeal to heaven flag as well. So I feel like, you know, we're the idea of being around people that are like-minded, that are wanting to know and understand the deeper things of God. It's more than just understanding dreams. It's understanding what to do in our nation at this time, you know? And so I know that you're one of those, probably intercessor, probably somebody that cares about what's happening on the national level. You know, we look at guys like Dutch Sheets and some of the stuff that he's doing, and very, very much the kind of people that we like to follow, we like to hang around with. So you're at a seminar, which means you're going to grow beyond where you're at. You go to a seminar to learn something that you haven't learned before or to get more proficient. But what's really cool is not only are you seated beside me, but you're in the same hotel room with me. So to me, what that means is it's not something weird. There's 3 different beds, but it's the idea that we would be resting together and dreaming together. So literally, it's not just you and me. It's you, your friend, and me. So it's literally a community of dreamers because we're all in bed sleeping, right? And so being in a community of dreamers, learning, being at a seminar, in a temporary place, in a place of rest, dreaming together as a community, and then the whole thing about weed. Are you smoking something? Are you smoking something? Is there something you're kind of telling me that you had smoked something before, and that you used to smoke pot, at least in the dream. You're telling me this, and so it's the idea of a desire. Literally, I love this, Joanne. A desire to go higher. I want to be going higher, right? God's got such a sense of humor. And, people on drugs, believe it or not, I'm not saying people should do this. I'm just saying they might perhaps get an interesting level of revelation. Not saying it's from God. I'm not saying it's something that you want to do. I'm just saying that definitely have a different experience than most people. I like this 3-level intel. Shelley likes the dream. Shelley likes going higher herself. Oh, okay. Well, anyway. But and so it's the idea of waking up the next day, which is when you would share, if you're in a community of dreamers, when you wake up is when you say, hey, I had a dream, let's talk about the dream, right? And you want to go find out where we are. You go to the lobby. We're not in the lobby. You go out to the parking lot. In the parking lot, in the van, which means like I'm ready to go. I'm in the vehicle, the destiny. You were still asleep and you wake up and I'm gone, but I'm in the parking lot, which means God is waking you up to something that I'm already there at, which again, probably represents spiritual intelligence. But for you, it's not just spiritual intelligence. It's like the mysteries. That's why he gives you the cool Scooby-Doo van, which I think is amazing. And it's blue, which represent various shades of depth and revelation. And then as I'm ready to take off, before I leave, I say, here's a glass pipe. Would you want some? Which means I'm offering you something that I have and kind of a drug of my choice. And I believe that I've never smoked pot. It's never been, it just hasn't been a thing for me. But I love to sleep. And in fact, even times when I wasn't as into dreams, if I would feel upset or feel depressed, I would always want to take a nap. It kind of became almost like a drug of choice. And I think it's interesting because God met me in that place and really started speaking to me as I would sleep. Sometimes I would use it as a way of escape. I'd be like, man, something tough happened. I'm going to go take a nap. And it's interesting because God told the prophet to do that. The angel told the prophet to do that when he was upset or depressed. Elijah, after feeling suicidal after facing off with the 400 prophets of Baal, God gave him some food and said, take a nap, take a rest. And then he went on to that big encounter that he had with the Lord. But I feel go Velma. I like that. So yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff that's there. And I feel like, again, this is just a unique way that God is inviting you into an invitation to want to learn more, to want to go deeper, to want to be part of a community, and to want to be part of a community that God is almost likening to smoking pot. There's a part of understanding revelation that almost becomes addictive, and that becomes like this other world where we want to spend the most of our time living in there because it's so cool, the things that God is showing us. Stuart, you get anything?
I think there's a little part about John in here that he's in a van without windows. That's the time period this organization and John has been in, sort of hidden. Like he was started outed. I saw him on Rachel Ham. Other people saw him with Amanda Grace, and then we've been doing this for a while. And then he's in a custom van. He customized the way you interpret dreams through the Joseph method, and then he's setting off on his journey in this custom van. And he's going to be outed. It's going to be out there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Does that resonate with you?
Absolutely. I felt like it was an encouragement to get involved with SIM, to get my act together so that, I can make the meetings and get involved with SIM. But the pot thing was throwing me off. And just sitting here tonight and listening to all the dreams, I thought, oh, do you give tests? Maybe the pipe was a test. Since I had said,
Yeah, that's really cool. I love it when he gives us invitations. That's awesome.
all right, thank you.
Cool. Well, thanks for being on, Linda. It's good to have you with us.
Good night.
Good night. All right, we got one more quick one here. Anne, what's your dream?
Hi, can you hear me? So I have a quick dream. It is really all about watching this program. I pray about my job and getting a job. And I had a dream about I was at my childhood home. My father, he is deceased September 1st, 1989. So it's been 34 years. I was going downstairs. He's sitting at the kitchen table, so my real father, and he's in his robe and he's doing something and he says, ouch, and he has a cut on his left hand. And I say, oh, well, let me get some hydrogen peroxide. But as this dream is occurring, I kind of know I'm in a dream. I'm hoping that I can actually see my father, and he is in fact there, even though he has a cut on his hand. And sort of simultaneously, his mother, my grandmother, lived down the street from us. I'm going to see her, and I'm also dreaming, but I'm saying, am I actually going to be able to see her? And she was an extremely beautiful, prim and proper grandma. But this time I do go there, I do get to see her, and she's sitting at a card table, kind of wheeling and dealing like I had never seen her before. Not in an illegal gambling way, but just a little bit more of a she's trying to make something happen. So again, my father, who we just had his death anniversary, my birthday was the next day, and then his mother, who lived just a block away, kind of a different side to her, at a card table, which I never saw her like that.
There is a generational legacy from your father and your father's mother's side that God wants to deal to you. There's something that he had for them to complete that they didn't complete. I feel like a lot of times God will give an invitation that will allow us the opportunity to pick up almost like a dormant destiny. You have a destiny of your own, but there are things that God had planned from the foundations of the world for your family to fulfill, and they might be a little bit edgy. Again, when we talk about dreaming, we talk about kind of the churchy, the church lady in the flower dress that teaches on dreams. When we talk about spiritual intel, it's completely different. It's like having a grandma that was in, the SAS or something. It's like there's this side. I don't know what grandma did during the war, but she was a code breaker. And, I love the book, The Woman Who Smashed the Codes, about the mother of the NSA and how that's what she did during the war. She was just this, this little old lady who taught literature or whatever. And she ended up breaking the enigma with a pencil and a piece of paper. Absolutely brilliant. But I feel like God is saying there's something for you. God, again, is so funny because he uses a dream to introduce you to the idea that there is a legacy. And I believe it might have to do with dreams and the seer realm in particular. I also think it's interesting that right around your father's death day is your birthday. So it's literally the idea of a continuation of something that your father had when he was alive, and even his mother had. There's something that you were birthed into that family for a reason, to be able to do some of the things that God had destined for you to do.
Yeah, and I will say that my grandma was born in the late 1800s, and she had a car of her own before even the Ford Motor Company. And my father, I'm a lawyer. My father was a lawyer, and my calling that it's funny because that has come up is to work with businesses to help them navigate through these crazy times with the COVID mandates and all the crazy stuff. But I've been feeling really stuck, and I take your advice, John. I pray to God. I say, I don't know what you want me to do. Please show me in dreams about what my next step is.
I think that's interesting. I'm connected with a group, in fact, and send me an email at dreamlifedecoded@gmail.
Okay.
Dreamlifedecoded@gmail.com. I have a friend that started America's Frontline Lawyers. And just like there's America's Frontline Doctors, America's Frontline Lawyers helps. I agree, Dawn, a justice warrior helps, and with people that are going through everything from constitutional crisis. These are people that are working with guys like Paul Davis and Tom Renz and others. So big, high-profile cases, but also school boards, also businesses. Also, they were the same lady was helping people who were filing the faith exemption for the vaccine, things like that. And so I feel like there could be a group of people, and the lady that started it was also a 10 or 20-year dream interpreter under John Paul Jackson. So we constantly have conversations about spiritual intelligence. And she's even been like, if you get any dreams related to what's happening in the legal world, please call me and let me know. And we've shared information back and forth related to that. So I think there's an invitation related to what God is doing in spiritual intelligence, particularly in the justice realm and in the legal system world. So it might be really interesting for you to meet these people and just see if that might be a place for you to serve or run with or find community in some aspect.
Yeah, and you mentioned Paul Davis. I moved to Dallas so that I could be closer to what's happening. And I do want to do spiritual intelligence. I'm just sitting here feeling a little isolated in a job and needing an income. So that's been the prayer. And I know that, and like I said, my father was 100% an incredibly honest and ethical attorney. So yeah, but I so appreciate everything that you guys do.
That's awesome. I think, I can connect you. She works directly with Paul in particular. And of course he's located out of Texas. And so there might be some really interesting inroads. That was the first thing that came to mind. So we're happy to do that. But yeah, this is clearly an invitation and a mantle that God is asking you to continue. And sometimes, we see things. We see like Bill Johnson as like 7 generations of his family are preachers, are ministers. So sometimes God will put something on a family that goes from generation to generation. And I think it's really cool because there's such a history with God that you have that is so far beyond you. In fact, I love the quote in Assassin's Creed where the father is telling the son, your blood is not your own. In other words, there were hundreds of years of people that went before you that fought for the freedom and the opportunity that you would have today, and their blood flows in you even though they're gone. And so your responsibility to live your life, and all of us in light of history and the destiny of our families that have gone before us, should weigh on us. It shouldn't be overbearing, but we should live our lives in light of history and light of our ancestors. And I think it's powerful that God is basically saying exactly that through this dream to you.
Amen. Thank you.
Thanks for being on. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey.
All right, guys, thanks for being on another edition of Live Dreams. We got a hard stop because we have another meeting that we got to go to and do some more training. If we didn't get to you this week, please come on again next week and let us know right away. We didn't get to you this week, so we can put you on priority next week. We really appreciate the time and attention that you guys take in being part of our community and chiming in and giving input and sharing your dreams with us. We love having you. And until next time, keep dreaming.